Welcome to the League of Women Voters Meet the Candidates Forum, produced in collaboration with WTJX-TV, our partner for over 20 years in bringing these programs to the voters of the Virgin Islands. My name is Dr. Gwen Moolenaar, a member of the League of Women Voters of the Virgin Islands, and I will serve as the moderator for today's forum. It is our goal that you, the voting public, will become better acquainted with the candidates for political office in the Virgin Islands and therefore be able to make informed choices at the polls in November. We're pleased to have as our four guests today, Ms. Janelle Sarauw, an independent, Ms. Shirley Sadler, an independent, Mr. Kevin Rodriquez, a Democrat, and Mr. Dwayne DeGraff, also an independent. The candidates have been informed in advance of the format for the program. Each will have 1 minute for an introductory statement and 1 minute for a closing statement. Questions of major interest to the public will be presented by the moderator. No candidate has been provided with these questions in advance of the program. The first respondent will be rotated among the four candidates and will have 2 minutes for a response to a question, with the other participants having 1 minute to contribute to the discussion or to challenge a statement. And now for the introductory statement, starting with Mr. DeGraff.
Good morning, Dr. Moolenaar. Good morning to fellow candidates, my fellow Virgin Islanders. I am Dwayne DeGraff, number 15 on your ballot. I'm asking everyone to come out and vote because that's what helps to change the process. I believe that there are two most important assets of Virgin Islands, our people and our natural resources. Again, think global, act local. Vote number 15, Dwayne DeGraff. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rodriquez.
Good day. I am Kevin Rodriguez, your senatorial candidate, number 17. I have decided to seek Senate office because I felt that no Virgin Islander who call this beautiful Virgin Islands paradise their home should have to relocate to the mainland in order to provide a quality of life for their family. As I travel abroad and travel and talk to many Virgin Islanders, the concerns are there are no job opportunities, the high crime rate, lack of resources in order to provide a great education for their child with special need. Our infrastructure is diminishing. It is important when you select a candidate that you look for a candidate who has a passion and the drive to improve the quality of life for the people of the Virgin Islands. I am Kevin Rodriguez, your senatorial candidate number 17.
Thank you. Ms. Sadler.
Good morning, everyone. I am Shirley M. Sadler, a big woman for a big job, promoting positive changes in the U.S. Virgin Islands. I strongly believe that it's time for us as a people to unite as one and come together and speak with one voice for the betterment of all of us. It is important, ladies and gentlemen, that we bridge that gap and stop being divisive because it is killing us. We need change. The bread and butter issues, our standard of living, health, everything around us is crumbling. And we need to make a difference and to make sure that each of us are counted for, not just a handful. So I'm asking you to vote for number 14, Shirley Marcella Sadler, a big woman for a big job, promoting positive change in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sadler. And finally, Ms. Sarauw.
Warm hellos. I am Janelle K. Sarauw, number 12 on your ballot. I'm a daughter of this soil who left here on a full volleyball scholarship to attend Florida Atlantic University. I received my Bachelor's of Arts degree in Political Science and went on to receive my Master's of Arts degree in Organizational Leadership with a certificate in Servant Leadership. I'm also a certified grant writer. I returned home and began teaching U.S. history at CAHS, then as a sports coordinator, and recently as a chief researcher and special assistant to Lieutenant Governor. I'm also a part-time professor of political science at the University of the Virgin Islands. I am educationally prepared, my passion is deep, and my intentions are pure. I'm asking for your vote on November 8th, 2016. Once again, I am Janelle K. Sarauw, number 12 on your ballot. Thank you.
Thank you for your introductory statements. And now let's talk about you as a candidate. You're all aware of the fact that there's one vacant seat in the Senate, so you know that somebody new is going in. Let's begin by talking about why, and convince our viewers, why you should be the one to fill that seat, Mr. DeGraff.
Yes, I believe I should be the one to fill that seat because, again, I'm a community leader. I retired from the military, retired from the Virgin Islands Police Department, where I served 34 years in the government, 26 as a police. I know this community. I've seen the changes over the years, and believe me, they weren't nice. Some of them were good, but most of them weren't nice. We've seen the changes in the Virgin Islands, and I would like to be a part of making that change, to make it better. We can do better. Thank you.
Mr. Rodriquez?
I am Kevin Rodriguez. Why I feel I should be the one selected to fill that seat? I have a proven track record. As the Director of Personnel, I've made major changes at my division. I was able to reconcile a $23 million insurance deficit with Cigna Insurance. I was able to electronically archive our personnel system. I've traveled throughout the Virgin Islands talking to many individuals who have some major concerns. And those concerns are talking about the bread and butter issues. I have the passion and the drive and the dedication to ensure that when elected, I will be committed to working towards improving the quality of life for all Virgin Islanders. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Sadler, why should you be the one?
Because I am very committed to the people of the Virgin Islands. My history of all the volunteer works I have done is proof for that. But most of all, I care. And I love the people of the Virgin Islands beyond words. And especially our sons and daughters are dying in our streets. We must stop that. We must give our children a second chance. We must give a second chance to ourselves. And I believe I am capable of that. Thank you.
Ms. Sarauw, why are you the one?
As a former teacher and one that coaches our young people, I've traversed the island and seen the problems that face our people. We have an issue with unfunded mandates, outdated policies, and given my educational experience, coupled by my job, I've seen what bad policies can do and how it can negatively affect the territory. I believe that I'm young, I'm energized, I bring something new to the table, I think outside the box, and as such, I believe that I am the perfect fit for the job.
Okay, I think you've made your cases. Let me ask a follow-up to that. Not only is there one vacant seat, but if we want to have more individuals in there, you've got to depose someone. So why do you think we need a change? What's wrong with what we have now, Mr. Rodriquez?
My slogan for my campaign is empowering change. And I'm focusing on we need to stop kicking the can down the road. It's important that we look at our deficit. Right now, we have a deficit of over $700 million. That is a huge deficit. And it's important that we as elected officials look at ways in which that we can fight for the people, we can fight for the betterment of improving our education, we can fight for improving our healthcare system. And that's why I feel that, one seat, I'll be the person for that seat.
But for the additional seat, I'm asking, why do we need a change from what we currently have? Ms. Sadler.
We definitely need a change from what we currently have. We had a body of 11 and it went to 12 as a majority. And to me, they did nothing. Nothing in the sense that they didn't promote any bills that dealt with the bread and butter issues, with the pain and suffrage of we the people. And when you have that kind of power and you turn around and give yourself $1.5 million to share up, I have a problem with that. So as far as I'm concerned, we definitely need change, and I am promoting positive changes in the VI, so I am one of your candidates. Thank you.
Ms. Sarauw?
According to the Organic Act, one of the roles of the Senate is to generate revenue. And we have continuously taxed an economy to death, hoping to breathe life into it. It is my hope that we begin to think outside the box, and that's the focus of our campaign, actually, the Forward Movement campaign, to think outside of the box, to come up with new sources of revenue, legalization of marijuana, the seaweed industry, taxing monetary exports, e-commerce. No one in this campaign or in the Senate has succeeded in coming up with new sources of revenue, and I believe that is imperative, and the incumbents have failed to do such.
Thank you. Mr. DeGraff?
Yes, I rated the legislature, excuse me, I rated the legislature a 5 and below because I ran in 2014 with some of the same issues that I've seen now. Crime is through the roof, and it continue to go. Revenue generation is zero. So my thing is, why look at outside when we can start building from inside? You know, through agriculture, tourism, the marine industries, and the technology industries. Let's get together, get those things going, generate the revenue we need to do, and make the Virgin Islands great from within. Thank you.
Okay, great. Well, you've responded to that, and let's move on to an issue that you have all alluded to, and that is of finding solutions. And we'll begin with Ms. Sadler for the response here. What approach are you going to use to identify best possible solutions and strategies to some of the problems that you're all discussing? What will be your approach to identifying them?
Well, I have 3, and my 3 is bond the box. Bond the box is where I strongly believe that we have to give fair employment opportunity to our young people. Individuals who have criminal records, we need to bond the box. We need to take that question off of the application. And 2, when it comes to the mentally ill, we have to give them second chances.
Excuse me, maybe I can just clarify the question for you. How are you going to find solutions? You're giving me what the solutions are, but what will be your approach to developing solutions for all of the problems that you're going to face?
Well, the development for my solutions starts with Congress. The Congressional Act of 208, where they actually passed the Second Chance Act. They passed it on April 9th, 208, and that act gives money that brings the answer to the solutions. And that is what I want to go after.
Okay.
So I hope I answered your question.
Well, we'll move on to Ms. Sarauw. How would you approach finding best possible solutions to all the issues?
We have a government accountability issue across the board. I propose the creation, we already have an established Inspector General's office. What we need to create is a government accountability office that will look at the government from a structural standpoint, a financial standpoint, and ethical standpoint. When that accountability office is created, then we can look at the performance-based, we can implement performance-based management. We can look at where we need to trim fat, where we misuse our human capital, and from those assessments, then we can begin to look at how we develop the budget, the structure of organizations in the government. We'll be able to make a sound decision on the policies that affect this government. That would be my approach in dealing with the problems facing the government. You can never come to a solution unless you make an assessment of what is wrong.
Okay, thank you. Mr. DeGraff?
Yes, could you repeat the question again, please?
Well, the question is, you're going to come up with solutions as a senator. And what approach are you going to use to finding what is the best solution for all of the problems that we're facing?
My approach would be to use the experts that we have here in the Virgin Islands, in education, law, all the different areas. Get them together and who have a stake in the Virgin Islands and address the issues from that level within, rather than bringing in experts to do surveys and to do assessments. Use our local people who know the Virgin Islands, who have stake, who love this Virgin Islands. We sit down, we get together, and we approach all the issues collectively, local, federal, the community, and the government. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rodriquez?
I would take this position from a proactive approach. I think it's important we must bring all stakeholders to the table and have a frank discussion as to where we want our Virgin Islands to go. We are at a trying time right now. We're no longer the Mecca of the Caribbean. And in order for us to develop and to be in that position once more, we must sit down and really think on innovative ways in which we can improve. There is a law in the books that says the legislature must meet twice a year. Is the Economic Recovery Conference, where it says legislature and stakeholders must meet to identify economic opportunities for the Caribbean, for the Virgin Islands, I'm sorry. And they did meet, but they have not developed any tangible and realistic goals that can be measured. And that is my major concern. So when elected, that will be my first order of business. Let's form that committee, bring the stakeholders to the table, and let's discuss where we're going to move these Virgin Islands.
Okay, and I know that when we talk, many of you are going to be talking about bringing in new programs. And so the question I'm going to ask is, where are we going to get the revenues? And how are you going to deal with departments that come before you whose budgetary requests exceed our revenues? How are you going to respond to those departments? And we begin with Ms. Sarauw in answering that question.
First of all, we established earlier one of the other roles of the Senate is to float bonds. I'm not a fan of floating bonds, but if we have to float bonds, you have to spend money in order to gain money. So we'll have to float a bond if a department is requesting funds that exceed the budget. So I'll propose floating a bond in order to fund whatever new capital projects that we have, whatever new economic programs that we're trying to implement. That would be one of my solutions. That's what you asked, right?
Yes, I was asking, how would you address the budget to address the needs of the various departments when their requests are exceeding our revenues? So on an annual basis, they will be coming before you, and I don't know if you can float a bond every year.
No, of course you cannot. Yes, that's not possible.
Yes. How would you address our yearly budgets, Mr. DeGraff, when departments come before you and they're asking for more money than we actually have?
I think basically I have to do a lot of line item adjustments in terms of requests. So we need to, what are we going to put, the egg before the chicken or the chicken before the egg? We basically have to go to where, let's make it where we can get revenue generation through allowing for small businesses to thrive. Once we have small businesses thriving, then big businesses may look at the Virgin Islands in terms of, hey, being an asset. So when you don't have money, you can't take money out of a stone. So where are you going to get the money from? Allow the small businesses to thrive, which would generate monies, which would be a trickle-down effect. Thank you.
Mr. Rodriquez.
As a former director of personnel, I've had the opportunity to be in front of the legislature several times. But as a fiscally responsible person, I've always worked within my budget. It's important, yes, personnel is a small agency, but the first thing that we must ask these commissioners that you have to make sure that you look at the important areas that need to be addressed, spend the money where it's necessary, and remove the fat. Oftentimes commissioners and person that come before the Senate, they do not have a strategic plan as to how they're going to move their agency forward. There are no measurable goals, there are no success stories, and even there's success stories, they're not measurable. And so the first question I would ask them is, if you want additional money, you must prove to me that once given this money, how you're going to spend it, and if it's going to be spent and given to the people that's really needed those money.
Thank you. Ms. Sadler.
I think this is a very good question. And one of the things that I've been always wondering is why the government does not give the department heads financial training. Because we put people in the office, they don't even pay their WAPA bill, and they have a budget. That is ridiculous to me. You know what your assets are. You know what you have to pay it. What your money is, and you know what you have to pay out. Pay your bills. So then you have to look and see where you could cut corners. Some of these department heads, they travel too much. Their employees travel to places that I think we shouldn't go when we are in hard times. And I believe some of these things has to cut back. We have to look at the basic needs and then deal with that. And like I said, train them on how to manage their monies.
Thank you. So we have some interesting solutions here. Let's talk about bringing jobs to the Virgin Islands. And what can we do, what can you do, Mr. DeGraff, as a sitting senator to bring more as well as better jobs for our people in the Virgin Islands?
Yes, thank you for that question. Again, I go right back to what I've been pushing for years. My ATM machine that I call, you can go and get your money out of, like you go to the bank, agriculture, tourism, the marine industries, and I'm adding the technology industries. We have these already set up here in the Virgin Islands. Why reinvent the wheel? Let's utilize those to make money here in the Virgin Islands and make the Virgin Islands great. So I was told that our broadband system is very fast, and we're looking to sell it away and different things. But it's not through the Virgin Islands. Put it out through the Virgin Islands. Let people see, hey, what we have. Let's boost our agriculture to feed us and to feed some of our neighboring islands. Again, the tourism and the marine industries, sports tourism, the marine industry, the different regattas and the different entities that we have. We're not expanding what we already have. Why reinvent the wheel? Thank you.
Thank you. And I failed to identify that when we began this round with you, Mr. DeGraff, that you are the first responder. So you are 2 minutes, and everyone else can now have 1 minute
okay.
To comment. So you had your full 2 minutes,
Okay,
Mr.
good.
Rodriguez. You have 1 minute now to either comment on what he said or add something new.
Well, I would like to add to it. VINGN was put in place as a mechanism to bring economic opportunity
Do you want
to
to
the
say
Virgin.
what VIGN is for?
VINGN is Virgin Islands Next Generation Network. And they were put in place in order to help the Virgin Islands move to the 21st century. Opportunities like cybersecurity. That's a great opportunity for many mothers and fathers who will stay at home. They can work from home, work from the computer. That's a great opportunity. Another opportunity, the agriculture school lunch pays $10 million a year for school lunch. That's a great opportunity for many farmers. And as I talked to the agriculture commissioner, the only impediment is if we want 10,000 pounds of carrots, we don't have any place to store them. But if we create a co-op that can help our residents have a small business, that will help grow the economy. Another area I would like to talk about is the STARS bill. It's production. The last production that was held in the Virgin Islands, where the young lady from St. John on her horse, it brought in $6 million, just one production. So can you imagine if we expand that opportunity and promote and invest in that opportunity, that would also bring additional revenues to the Virgin Islands.
Thank you. Ms. Sadler.
I believe that we must cultivate from within. And one of the things that I would like to see happen is that we start investing in our people. Not outside, but us. And my thing is, the farmers are now trying to do a juicer. Barbados just started selling juice throughout the Caribbean. There ain't no better juice in this world than local juice made in the VI. I want to see that juicer become a reality, and I want to see it become marketable all over the world. Because when you get your guava juice or you get your soursop juice, ain't nobody could make it better than we. So we need to promote that. We've been watching for years that Thailand has been taking Tamon and making it a big thing. We don't make Tamon juice. Let us do the juicer. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Sarauw.
We need to reform our EDA program. Not many of our locals are being hired through the EDA program. We also need to provide tax incentives to small businesses to hire local people. We've raised the minimum wage bill, but we have failed to reduce grocery street taxes, and small businesses are beginning to suffer from such a bill. We also need to partner with UVI on majors that are relevant to this society. We also need to offer scholarships to young people to go to UVI to become educators, because we have a huge vacancy of teachers in the Department of Education. We need to also make it mandatory for any student who wants to study or become a boat captain, that our curriculum allows for that to happen. We have a law in the books that every child should be taught how to swim. But if we incorporate a marine program within our schools, then we see our young people, maybe 7th and 8th graders, scuba dive, and when they cross the stage in 12th grade, they leave with a boat captain license. These are ways to create jobs. We have seaweed that comes upon our shores. There's no reason why every makeup that you wear has in seaweed, and sushi is a lucrative industry. There's no reason why we cannot use the seaweed that we have to become one of the leading exporters in seaweed.
Thank you for your responses. And we're going to begin the next question with you, Mr. Rodriquez, having to do with the EDC. Do you think that as the Virgin Islands, we are receiving enough benefits for the benefits that we're giving out? And if not, as a senator, what changes would you make? So you have 2 minutes for your response.
Yes.
Everybody else one.
I strongly believe that we are not receiving enough benefit, our bang for a buck, or return on investment. EDC companies come in to the Virgin Islands because of opportunity. And one of the things that we lack in the Virgin Islands is monitoring. When an EDC company comes into the Virgin Islands, they have a wish list. Oh, do we have a company, or do we have an organization that we can donate to? And majority of the time it goes to those organizations that already have funding. And so what I would propose is that we must identify areas within our Virgin Islands that need that immediate attention, like equipped many of the schools to retrofit technology. Also put an incentive for EDC beneficiary. We talk about second chances. That's a great opportunity. We want to give these young men and women a second chance. That is a great opportunity to say, if you hire those persons as a second chance, that would help the Virgin Islands also. I'm going another step further. When elected, I am going to speak and practice what I promote. I'm going to hire 2 persons within my office for a 6-month period, rotated, where I will then give them the necessary training and resources needed in order for them to be productive citizens. And so, second chance is a great opportunity. The young men that are on the street who feel disenfranchised, I will also give them that opportunity.
Thank you. Ms. Sadler.
I am so pleased that Mr. Rodriguez is buying into second chance. I thank you, because second chance is what my campaign is all about. But in answering your question, I honestly believe that the EDC beneficiaries did not give us back what we put into them. And it is unfair that for some of them are on it for 15 and plus years, and there's no coming off of it. And I believe that if we were to take some of the opportunities that we are giving to the businesses that are coming in and give it to the small business, we would build our economy. I'm not saying don't have the EDC, but I'm saying there comes a time that we have to wean them off of the benefits that they have and give it to the small businesses. Thank you.
Ms. Sarauw?
Nothing is wrong with our EDC, with giving EDC benefits. It's always good to negotiate, but negotiate in good faith. And give the territory their fair share of the bargain. I believe some of those EDC benefits can extend to small businesses, but what the government should create is a needs list. Do a full assessment, and then when EDC companies come in, then that EDC corporation has the ability to look at that list and see what it is that they can fix, and then you scratch it off of the list, and one by one, I mean, I'm sure that we can begin to see improvements. I also believe that we have a communication issue in our territory, transparency. A lot of EDC companies come in wanting to give to society or to our schools or to organizations, but the EDA has not been clear about what is it that they should give to. So when you look at it, yes, EDC companies should give more, but what is it that our government is not doing to make sure that they fulfill their share of the bargain?
Thank you. And finally, Mr. DeGraff.
Yes, I think everything I've heard from everyone is basically my concept of think global and act local. Again, I'm looking for equality. The EDC benefits, I understand, to attract big businesses, fine. Let's make it equal. Give it out to, as Ms. Sarauw said, give it out to the local businesses where they can see that they have a fair chance. Hey, and then I think, it makes it even. But most important, let's have the community buy into where these monies or these allotments that they're supposed to be making have a stake in versus just where the government decides. And hey, hence, breeds corruption. We've seen the corruption issue. So let's have the community buy into the stake as to where we want our Virginians to go and get into some of these benefits going towards those type situations.
May I add?
Thank you.
10 seconds.
10 seconds.
Yeah, we have corruption also exists within our EDA. Working at the Lieutenant Governor's office, we see a lot of companies that for years receive tax breaks without anyone even knowing. So let's be blunt about it, that we've had corruption as well within our EDA program.
Absolutely, absolutely. The League notices that very little discussion actually is taking place on the environment. And so we'd like to know from each of you, beginning with Ms. Sadler, do you see the Virgin Islands as needing to be concerned about climate change? And if so, what are the potential dangers for us from climate change that scientists say are occurring, and what can be done?
Yes, I do see that, and it's something that I pray every day for, that we are equipped to handle it, because most of our waterfront is filled in land. And the sea tends to reclaim her boundaries. And I am so fearful that if we don't start looking at that seriously, when all those icebergs are melting all over in Alaska, we're going to suffer.
In what way?
Well, because the sea will retake her land, and we are not doing anything to secure and maintain the boundaries that we have now taken back from the sea.
So as a senator, what would you do?
The first thing I will do is have the Army Corps of Engineers look at it and tell us how we can fix it, because we're not doing anything. We have to find out professionally what to do and how to do it. And then we have to find out the cost of and to me, it's so important that the cost should not be our barrier. We need to fix it, so we need to find out what we have to do and do it.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Sarauw. Is there anything you can do as a senator?
Everything cannot be solved by statute. We have to champion causes. What I believe we should do is try to receive a grant, EVI. Most of the research done in the world is through grants given to colleges. I believe that UVI's marine program can get a grant, do a study on our coral reefs, look at the runoffs that we do have, work with DPNR, a Division of Fish and Wildlife, to secure the reefs that we do have. I realized that Great St. James we gave to Mr. Epstein, and construction has been built there, and the runoffs are taking place and damaging the coral reefs. As a senator, though, what we can do is look at how we zone. We need a comprehensive land use plan. We tend to zone at the danger of the environment. So as a senator, from a statute standpoint, we can look at how we zone, but we also need to champion the cause of UVI receiving a grant so that their marine division can partner with the Division of Fish and Wildlife and begin some studies onto how we should come up with viable solutions to protect our environment.
Thank you, Mr. DeGraff.
Yes, could you repeat the question again?
No, the question is, in terms of climate change, should this be a concern for the Virgin Islands? And if so, what could you do as a senator?
Yes, I think climate change is definitely a real issue in the Virgin Islands. We have someone who is a liaison to the governor and addressing the issues on climate change. Again, these are things that we tend to just have in name, and we don't actually take them serious. Even our dump, the situation with our garbage in Virgin Islands is paramount. It's a pandemic issue right now where it's no time to, but in terms of legislation, I don't know if the particular legislation that you can pass to deal exactly with climate change, just issues on the environment in a whole, the dump being one in particular, or land use, and so forth, etc. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Rodriguez.
I think we must first educate our community, the importance of saving our environment. Once they're educated, then we know that at least we're moving in the right direction. Another area we need to look at is our emissions testing. Sometimes you will be driving behind a car on the road and you could smell the emissions coming. That contributes to our environment. And so it's important that we educate our community as it relates to protecting our environment. The Bovoni landfill, it's based on the information given, it's going to be closed within a couple of years because of the many fires that's under the ground, the oil that's within the ground that's burning. That is something that we need to look at. I have a friend that lives a couple miles from there, and sometimes you could smell the funk, as they would say. And so we must, as a community, educate our community as it relates to protecting our environment.
Okay, thank you very much. And Ms. Sadler.
Same question?
Oh no, we just completed that.
How's the last?
Because it
Yes.
started with me.
Okay, so now we're going to go now to Ms. Sarauw, and let me ask you: is there anything, as a senator, you would be able to do to assist GERS and the major problem that we're having with the government retirement system?
I believe that the board, we need to look at the qualifications of our board members who've made horrible investment choices. Secondly, I believe that GRS must follow the law and reinstate the loan program. When you stop such a program, you stymie economic development. Economics 101 is that for society to function, there must be a constant exchange of cash. That's how a recession begins, when everybody begins to hold on to what is theirs. I also believe that the current retirement packages we should stop for new employees and implement a program similar to the 401k program where the onus is no longer on the government but on the beneficiaries themselves. Lastly, I would call for the government to
Excuse me, you
begin
mean that they should make their own investments? Is
their
that
own
what you're
investments,
suggesting?
yes.
Do you think
And,
our community is capable, many people in the community can do that? Make their own investments?
I mean, we have to make hard decisions at some point, and the current system as it stands, it's sinking. To tell me to expand government, when government becomes the largest employer of the people, because some of our solutions have been to expand the government, and when the government becomes the largest employer of the people, that means you're a welfare state. Government should not become larger. That puts a bigger burden, and I do not believe we should pass the $600 million pension obligation bond because we don't have the borrowing capacity to do such. But the 401k, modeling a program for the 401k plan can also be an option, and the government should also begin to pay their share of contributions to the system as well.
Okay, good. Mr. DeGraff?
Yes, thank you for that question. Since I am a member of the GRS, also retired, I think the whole process needs to change where we take a tier, make a tier 3 and cut off the amount of people going into the GRS system as it presently is. Take away where the government has to match the funding per individual, and if anything, the government gives a stipend every 10 years if you do 30 years to get a retirement. Again, it's a theory, but the individuals who put their monies into the retirement system would only receive the monies that they put in over the system, where their monies can be utilized by the GRS to be invested, to make these great investments that they do. Some are going to be failures, some are going to be success stories, but the system has to change. A 401k, I don't even think is the answer because they're not being matched also in the real world right now. But turn it into basically where it's a saving system that the monies could be used by GRS, cap the amount of people entered into the GRS where you get a lifetime benefits from it, and we move on from there.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez.
Our current GRS deficit is $1.2 billion. And my concern is, as we look at the history behind GRS, several early retirements, an investment of $50 million towards a life insurance bond that now only yields $8.5 million. That was a bad investment. And so we must, as we look at the ways in which we need to improve GRS, I have one way right now. We have over 600 contractual employees within the government. If we bring those contractual employees, because most of them are working full-time, at GRS, that can yield another $4 million. And so we must bring in order for GRS to grow, we must infuse GERS with additional employees, because the lifespan of GRS retirees like yourself has expanded much longer. And that's why we lost that $50 million investment. We must look at the composition of the board of GRS and make sure that we have people who are expert, because you can never take a knife to a gunfight. You have to be able, knowledgeable.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm not saying that they're not doing a terrible job, but we need to do better.
Thank you, Ms. Sadler. What's your response?
I'm in agreement with so much of the comments that have been made, but the one thing that I would like to see GRS do is stop wasting our money on junk bonds. And I do believe that we do definitely have to make sure that the board of GRS knows financing. I don't think they do. And on top of that, we just recently watched Domino's was selling out its gas stations. I would like to see GRS actually invest in things here and not invest in abroad and then tell us to lose their money. We're waiting for the supermarket to open, and I'm praying that that opens soon, because then we could support our own. But if GRS was in its crunch that it is now, start investing in local, where we, the government employee, could invest our money back into ourselves, I think it will give us a better heads up in saving GRS.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, you're all aware, based on reports in the newspaper, that there is a push for the legalization of medical marijuana in the Virgin Islands, in addition to a push for recreational use of marijuana. Are you in favor of these two proposals, Mr. DeGraff?
Well, for me, for medical marijuana, I am. As a police, I've fought against, I've locked up many young men, destroyed their lives over a joint, over a couple amount of marijuana. But I see where it's an industry. I would first like to see where it's actually put into effect and regulated heavily. But for medical marijuana, yes, I'm in favor of. For recreational marijuana, down the road, I can see where marijuana will become, again, that industry. I'm not ready to go ahead and give the okay on recreational marijuana at this point. But for medical, yes, I am.
Mr. Rodriquez, what about you?
I in agreement with medicinal use only. I had an opportunity to meet a person who I grew up with actually in Palibog, and she was sitting on the bus stop, and she said, you know, if I don't drink that marijuana tea, my face will be twitching the entire day and my whole body will go into convulsion. And my heart bled for her, because this is a woman who I met that was vibrant and had a spirit. But looking at her, she said, I am not going to vote for anybody who doesn't support marijuana for medicinal purposes. And we must look at that. We must make sure that if we make a decision, it is the right decision and it can bring financial rewards to us. Now, as they talk about recreational, I am not a proponent of recreational marijuana. I've never smoked a weed in my life. But however, in the event if we decide, we must have zones. And the zones must be within the tourist area. Where Yacht Haven, you would have a zone where you want to smoke, you buy your marijuana, you smoke it within that zone and confined and controlled area, in the event if we decide to go in that direction.
Ms. Sadler?
You know, this is one that's been a hard one for me, and I'll tell you why. My mother died of cancer, and I watched her suffer. And my mother took a trip from here and went to Jamaica. And the surprising fact, this was a woman who would say, I'll kill you, I'll dead if you smoke marijuana. She went to Jamaica to have the tea. and it eased her. So when it comes to Medusa, I am 100% behind that. But anything else, right now, I think we have to look at. I don't like the smell of marijuana at all. I don't when they're smoking it. But I have never even smoked it myself, so I don't know what the benefits are or not. So I'm not going to sit here and lie about it. But what I do believe that we have to look at it in a different way, because it's becoming something that we're going to have to deal with. We just can't sweep it under the rug. And so I am hopeful that with enough studies, with enough analyzing the states that have it legal to see what the benefits are, and then go from there. I am not going to say I'm not for, but right now I would like more of us to look at it reasonable, sit down like reasonable mind people, and make a reasonable decision that is going to benefit us all.
Thank you, Ms. Sarauw.
Disclaimer, I do not smoke, but I am for medicinal marijuana, and I am for the legalization of marijuana for recreational use. I am from a new era. I have seen the benefits, the economic benefits of legalizing marijuana for recreational use. Let's be real with ourselves. If we have 10 people in a room, approximately 6 smoke marijuana. Professionals smoke, doctors smoke. It's not just for the 18 and under or the 30 and under generation. A lot of people smoke marijuana for some type of herbal libation. The national average of smokers is 30%. So imagine calculating 30% by how many people we have on a cruise ship that want to come here to probably go to a kiosk, get marijuana, and like how we have the smoking ban, you find an area where they can smoke marijuana. Jamaica just actually recently opened up the economy to allow marijuana for recreational use. But it has to be a carefully crafted legislation where we look at the social impact, the economic impact. But to tell us that we should do it down the road, the longer we wait, the more of a deficit we'll have. The time is now for us to put away our conservative beliefs, our fearful ideologies, and embrace something new. The
Thank
same
you.
way, sorry, one more part. The same way we depend on the rum cover over, we can
the amount of time
depend
that you're going to
on
have for your closing.
legalizing.
But
But
yes.
just, that was
Yeah.
it.
So what I'd like to do as my last question is to ask each one of you to address an issue that either that we have not covered as part of our discussion, or to expand on one of your answers for as part of your response. So we'll begin with Mr. Rodriquez. And so what would you like
This
to talk
is a
about?
very sensitive issue.
Yes.
My son has attention deficit disorder. And you know, many people say, well, my wife isn't here. But as a father, when you want to make sure that your child has the best possible care and education, you're going to do whatever it takes to ensure your child is in the right environment. And say that. I've met so many mothers with children who has that attention deficit disorder. And as in a version, we call them disgusting. And so it is my hope when elected that we must look at ways in which we help these young children identify the problem, give them the necessary resources and medication, whatever is needed in order to ensure that they receive the best education possible.
So you see it as part of the education department?
That should be
program?
as part of the education department. I think that is very important, because if you look at those persons who have been disgusting, those persons have been robbed, have been jailed. And so we need to identify from a young age so we can be more proactive and preventative in ensuring that these young men and women have the best possible education and resources and medical treatment needed in order for them to be productive citizens.
Ms. Sadler, what is your issue?
I'm here trying to figure out how come Mr. Rodriguez and I seem to be on the same train. But I have that in my Second Chance Act. But one of the things that my issue is the mentally ill. Our mentally ill and homeless need to be taken care of. And we have failed as a community, as a society, when we neglect to take care of our disenfranchised and our less fortunate. I would like to see us give hope, dignity, and pride back to our mentally ill. I am proposing a revolving door where we have their medication, we have the services they need, a clean bath, a bed to sleep in, but they're free to come and go as they please, because most of them have chronic issues. One person could have 4 or 5 different chronic issues, I understand, and they do not want to be caged. And that is the reason why they live on the street, because the street to them is their safe haven. We have to become proactive, get out of the box, and think like they do to help them.
Thank you, Ms. Sarauw.
Crime would be an issue we didn't discuss today. That's a sensitive topic for me. My peers are dying, my students are dying, and we often propose a lot of initiatives that the police can do, but we fail to focus on the back end. We put a lot of funding on the front end, and in a scale of 1 to 10, that's 10. We need to focus on level 1 to 5. I would propose that we provide funding for human services to rehabilitate our young people, for our juvenile part of our PD to have funding to do what they need to do. Our YRC needs major reforms. Our alternative education, we need to also look at reforming that, probably bringing in a military school where the military funds it 100%, and you have the reformation of our children. We need restorative justice in this territory. And on the front end of our crime, we can expand our video policing program, find a grant where we put up more cameras around the area, so we won't have to depend on a local person feeling comfortable enough to report a crime to the police.
Well, thank you, Ms. Sarauw. You have a long list there. It looks
No,
like
no, I was
part of
just
part of your
addressing-
campaign. You can expand a little bit more of that, but we'll move now to Mr. DeGraff, who will tell us what his
Yes,
issue
my pet peeve is crime and education. They must be linked together to solve the issues that are going on in the Virgin Islands. So I would like to see vocational education put back into the schools and have it funded by the EDC companies as a part of, again, what the community needs. Vocational education will show where individuals have something to do, they learn a trade that they can sustain themselves for the rest of their lives. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And we've come to the end of today's forum, and each candidate will now have 1 minute to close, beginning with Ms. Sarauw.
I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for having us here today. You've heard the responses of our candidates. I ask that you vote based on credentials, based on qualifications, not on instant gratification, but on objective thinking. And I believe that through collaborative efforts, that will be redeemed, will be restored, and revitalized. Once again, I am Janelle K. Sarauw, number 12 on your ballot.
Thank you. Mr. DeGraff?
Yes, thank you to the League of Women Voters for having me. Great forum. Congratulations and much success to all of the candidates. But again, I'm the best candidate for it because a senator must be a community leader. And I've shown that I've been a community leader. All that been discussed today is think global, act local. Vote number 15 on your ballot. Thank you.
Mr. Rodriquez.
I am Kevin Rodriguez, Senatorial candidate number 17. It's important when you're selecting someone, you look at their track record. That is very important. I do have a track record. I was the former Director of Human Resources for the legislature under Senator Berry, and I was the Director of Personnel for the government of the Virgin Islands. It's important that these territories look at the challenges that we're facing right now. And when elected, I pledge my commitment and dedication to improving the quality of life for all residents of the Virgin Islands. I am Kevin Rodriguez, your senatorial candidate number 17 on the ballot.
Thank you. Ms. Sadler.
Thank you. I would like to also thank the League of Women Voters for having me here today. But to the voters, I'm going to say to you, please evaluate each of us. Look at us carefully, and I'm going to beg you to go out and vote, because that's the most important process. You want change, you have to vote. Change don't come with you staying home. I am going to ask you for one of your precious votes. I am also going to ask you for your prayers and your support. I am going to say to you, I am Shirley Marcella Sadler, a big woman for a big job, seeking your support. But I can't do it alone. I need 7 other people who have the same mindset as I for change. So if you're going to vote for me, please seriously dissect, look at all of us, and decide who are your best candidate. Thank you. Have a blessed one.
We would like to thank all of our candidates for being here on the forum, and thank you, WTJX. And we ask the viewing public to continue to look at the League of Women Voters programs, which air Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 9 p.m., and re-air on Saturdays at 4 p.m., and Sundays at 4 and 5 p.m. If you would like to learn more about how our government functions and would like to become involved in our participatory democracy, then you must join the League of Women Voters, which is a nonpartisan organization, meaning that the League does not support or oppose any candidate or political party. The League works to increase understanding of public policy issues and to influence public policy through education and advocacy. And do consider joining the League of Women Voters, which is open to both men and women. Visit our website at www.lwvvi.org. Be sure you're registered to vote, though. Your vote does count in the Virgin Islands, where our numbers are small, and so one vote can make a big difference. Remember that your vote determines the kind of government that we have. I'm Dr. Gwen Moolenaar, and I'm looking forward to seeing you at the polls.